Okay, class. Well, this is basically our last week, or we're going to start our last week, which is about chapter 12, and chapter 12 is statistics. Basically, we're going to cover just few fundamental aspects that comprise 4 sections between section 12.1 all the way down to section 12.4. 12.1 is all what has to do with how to gather a sample from a population and what are really the rules that we need to follow whenever we want to have a sample that is representing from some population. Because what we want to do is just to make analysis in the sample and then from there to draw conclusions that can be extended to the whole population. Okay, that's what is section 12.1. I encourage you guys to review the instructional material, the lecture that I gave you, and to go through your textbook. So it's really a very easy section. But what I would like to reinforce a little bit in here is about section 12.2 and 12.3, okay, which is something that is called summarizing data in statistics. You don't have this slide in your D12 because this is I took this one from my course of statistics, but anyway the material is the same. However, you can check the ones that I gave you in D12 that is also covered in a very detailed way of what I'm going to tell you here. This is like a summary. So when we summarize data, what we want to do is just to learn about a data that is coming from a sample that we took from a population. And there are descriptors, and that's why this is called descriptive statistic, that explain or give us ideas about what the data is telling to us. Okay, those descriptors are summarized. Let me go in here, sorry. Are summarized in subjects that we're going to cover: the central tendency, dispersions, and one that is called position, and the one that we're going to review in our course is the Z-score. Okay, so in this video, what I want to tell you is a little bit about central tendency. Okay, so let me move forward. If you go to D12, you will see that I include an spreadsheet, actually. Whenever you're going to review the instructional material for chapter number 12, and you find this spreadsheet about section 1, section 2, and really section 3, okay, my suggestion is to download the spreadsheet and open as an Excel file. Well, actually it's an Excel file, but try to avoid to open within D12 because D12 doesn't understand very well the format, and probably you're not going to be able to see the content clearly. So what I tried to do was to explain the concepts very easily, just following an exercise within the spreadsheet. The exercise that I propose is the following. This is taken from your textbook. It's a very easy exercise, and what the spreadsheet does is just to create the solution for that exercise. So this is an example in which a professor have a group of students in a course that is the population, the whole course, and he perform a survey for some particular assignment that he posts to the course at some specific moment. And he asks to every one of the students, he asks how many hours they spend doing that homework. and they collect that data. In that course, there were 30 students. So if you count all of these, there were 13 college students. And what everybody replied during the survey was the number of hours that they spent into the assignment. And the professor had the interest to know how the class performed regarding the assignment, because he wants to know about the if the assignment was very challenging for the students, or it was very easy, or there is something in which the professor can do in order to help the student to perform better with the assignment in the future, so on, those kind of things. And he performed some kind of statistics looking at some specific descriptors. Okay, so in here, the whole population was surveyed, and every member of the population provide a response to the survey, and that was collected. And those are the numbers that we have over here. Some students spend 16 hours, like we can see here. Some others spend 17. Some others spend 18. So you might ask to yourself, why this kind of thing is important? Well, we do in one way to another these kind of things in our daily life. Imagine, for instance, that you are planning to take a vacation and you decided to go to Las Vegas in December to spend some days during Christmas over there. What are you gonna do in your planification? Well, probably one of the first questions that you may have is, okay, when I'm going to stay in Las Vegas once that I arrive there? What is the hotel that I'm going to choose? So what you normally do is you go to the website and you start to check the different options. You choose 3 or 4 options, and for each one of them, you look at the reviews. Well, this is a sample that you are taking from a population. Let's say, for instance, that you choose one hotel. I don't know, Hotel A or X. And then you look at the review. Of course, probably in the website, you're gonna find so many reviews, hundreds of reviews, because the population is very large. What you decided to say is, well, let me take a sample, and I'm gonna take randomly a sample. I don't know, the first 10 that I'm going to read, or I'm going to read one and skip the next 2 and take the third one. But in somehow you are going to define to sample all the population of review. This is what I want to sketch or represent here in this graph. Okay, so basically you take a sample, because probably your population is huge and you're not going to be able to look at the whole population. Well, what you are looking for? Well, you look at the review and you try to see how many people is telling to you if the location is convenient or not, if you have good or bad reviews. That's what you are really doing. And you're gonna take the decision over that particular place upon of the frequency of good reviews that that place may have. Well, this is what we call the central tendency. When you take a sample that is coming from a population with some particular outcomes in that survey, what you try to do is to check what is the most frequent event or response during that sample, and that is going to tell you in somehow that the central tendency of that population is going into that direction. And then upon of that, well, you take a decision. Let's say that you choose location A to go to Las Vegas in Christmas, and that location A, you check a sample of 15 reviews, and you found that 10 people out of the 15 told you that the place is very good, very convenient, is safe, is clean, and the cost is very reliable. So probably you might choose that one. But if the opinion is different, probably you're going to reject. Or if there is a dispersion that doesn't allow you to take a decision, probably you go to another option. So that's the kind of things that you are looking for. When you are looking of what is the highest frequency to some outcome, what you are doing is to get the central tendency. Well, what I'm going to tell you in this video is how to compute the central tendency. So if you open a spreadsheet, you might collect or display all this information in the spreadsheet. For instance, that's what I did here. So I put all this information of the coming from the 30th student in a vertical direction in the spreadsheet. That's what you have over here. Okay, so the first student say that he spent or she spent 16 hours. The student number 18, he said or she said that she spent 15 hours. But there are some students that said or sustain that they spend about I don't know, 20 hours, for instance. Okay, so you have all that information and you collect that information in your spreadsheet, and then what you're gonna do, you're gonna copy all this column in another one, let's say in the next one, and then you sort this column from the lowest to the highest values. Okay, and that's what I have over here. So this representation is quite convenient because that is telling to you the frequency for each one of the outcomes. For instance, how many people say that they spend 15 hours just for getting done the homework? Well, you can count here. I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 students. And that is very important. Okay? What about 16 hours? Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students. What about 17? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 students. Okay? So seems to be that from this sample of students that are 30 students, okay, there are a tendency in which most of the students seems to be that they spend around 15 to 17 hours. However, if we ask for those one that spend 20 hours, well, we have only 2 students from the population. Probably those students are not representative of that sample because they spend more time because probably they didn't dedicate enough time in order to review the instructional material, or they try to assess that homework at the last minute, so that's why they spend more time. But on regular basis, probably the tendency is another one. Okay, so this is the more important part in order to identify the central tendency, to sort the outcomes from the lowest values to the highest. And with this information, what we're going to ask to ourselves is the following. Well, what is the minimum value that I have in my outcome? And what is the largest one? Okay? When we look at the values, well, we see that the minimum outcome is 15. And actually, we can see that from here. And also, if we are looking for the largest one, we can see that there are a couple of guys that they claim that they spend almost 24 hours. So that is the range of the outcomes in our sample. So we need to grab those values, the minimum one and the largest one. And then we collect in a table all those values. Well, I have 15 as an outcome, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Those are my possible outcomes from the sample that I took. And what we're going to build with this is something that is called the frequency distribution table. Okay, so how we do that? Well, we allocate another column next to this one and we say, okay, let's go for each one of the possible outcomes, 15 hours. Then in here, I count from my sample how many of them spend 15 hours. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I put that number over here. Then for the next one, which is 16, I count how many students spend 16 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 5. Then for 17, I count how many students that spend 17 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and so on. Okay? When I look on here, I can see that there is a specific outcome that have the highest frequency of students, and that corresponds to 17. I mean, the realization in our sample of a student that spends 70 hours for doing the homework, okay, is the highest frequency in that sample. So if I want to take conclusions in the future as a professor, and I want to say, well, let me include this homework for the next time, and I want to know what is the minimum time that I should give to the students to doing this homework, well, probably I will use at least, I will give them 17 hours. Because based on this sample, seems to be that is the tendency. Okay? Well, once that you have these two columns, what you're gonna do is to multiply the outcome with the frequency to get this one. And then you add all those values in that multiplication, and all those values are going to be divided by the summation of all the frequency. Of course, all the frequency, when you add all those values, they should give you the number or the length of your sample, because that's what you are solving. Well, this division is what is called the mean. When we perform this operation in our spreadsheet, that is going to give us 70.93. Okay, that is one measurement of the central tendency. This is telling to you that in average, the students might spend around 18 hours or 17.9 hours. That gives you an idea. Okay? So, and that is something that you can repeat in your daily life. Exactly with the same example that I give you about this, about the of choosing a place to stay in Las Vegas. For instance, if you want to go to there for Christmas vacation. But there are another ways to assess the central tendency. That is the median, the mode, and the mid-range. Okay? So the median, what is the median? The median is the following. If we have a sample that is an odd number, what we're gonna do is, just in the middle of the column that is already sorted, we look at the middle point. And that is gonna be the median. But in our case, in our example, Okay, we have 30 students, so the number of the sample, of the length of the sample is now odd, is even. Well, if you have that, you look at the two middle values that split your list in equal length samples. So for instance, the two middle ones are given by n and a half and n and a half plus 1. This is 15 and 16. This is this position here. So above these two middle positions, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 sample. And down below, you have exactly the same amount of sample. So these two numbers split the complete list into half that have equal number of samples. Well, these two numbers are the ones that you're going to take into account to compute the median. Okay, so you take this one, these two, you add these two, and then the result of the addition is going to be divided by 2. Okay, oops, I'm sorry. And this, what is called the median. And when you compute for this particular exercise the median, you get that the median is 70.5. It's telling to you almost the same. Because this data is very well organized. It's not dispersed. It wasn't a very good sample to tell you about the result of that homework regarding the time that they spent to get done with this, with that exercise, with that problem, no? So, and this is what you have to do in order to compute the median. So you take this number, these two numbers, in the case that your the length of the sample is even, so you make the addition and you divide it by 2. Basically, you compute the average of these two numbers. If your list have an odd number, well, you take the middle, because the middle is going to split the list into half that have equal amount of samples. And that middle is going to be a measurement of the central tendency. But again, should be done in the sorted data. Okay? So the other two are the mode and the mid-range. The mode is in your data, here in this frequency distribution table, in your data, what is the sample that have the highest frequency? That's what you're going to do. And this is what you normally do in your real life. For instance, in the example that I gave you about Las Vegas, you read, I don't know how many reviews, and you try to look for the number or the frequency of reviews that were good. If the number looks high for you, well, you go with that option, right? That's what you normally do intuitive. But also you can compute from your sample the mean, the median, and so on. So the mode in here, well, is the outcome with the highest frequency. The outcome with the highest frequency, as I told you before, is 17. I mean, the frequency is 6. Okay? And then the other one is to take the mid-range. How are you going to compute the mid-range? Well, the mid-range, you need to identify the lowest value, that is this one over here, and the highest value, that is this one over here. So you make the addition of these two extreme values and divide it by 2. That is the mid-range. And if you compute that one, that is going to give you 19.5. Okay? Of course, this one is different from that. Why? Because you have some outlier values that really doesn't represent the population. You have here two guys that they that they spend almost 24 hours, but only 2 guys out of the 30 amount of students that you survey in that particular exercise. Okay, so really it's not representative of that population. That's why this value is high. So the result is biased because the highest value, but the highest value is not really a representation of your sample, a good representation of your population. Okay, so well, this is the different ways to compute the central tendency. Then you can plot this in a bar graph. Okay, so you can plot this one. And let me see if I have that one over here. So this is this plot. So you can make a plot of this in which in the vertical you're going to have the frequency, that is the second column, okay? And in the horizontal, well, you're going to have the outcomes of what you surveyed. The outcomes was the amount of hours that they spend for doing that particular homework. And this is your value. So you can see if you skip this one, you can see that your graph have a central tendencies to the highest bar, which is really close to 70. But because you have this dispersion of numbers, your frequency is a little bit skewed to the right. Okay? Because the mean value is going to be biased by these 2 guys over here. And that's why I say this is skewed to the right. Sometimes it's skewed to the left. It depends how is the median value compared to the mean. When the median and the mean are very close together, almost identical, well, we say that the distribution of the frequency or the frequency distribution function here is very symmetrical. It's like a bell shape. And that is something that we're going to discuss in section 12.4. Okay? But when we have some outliers, then we say that it's skewed to the right or skewed to the left. Okay? And that's what I have in here, in this case. So sometimes is very center, very nice, like a bell shape. And this is what we're going to review in section 12.4. That is the normal distribution. But sometimes it's skewed either to the right or either to the negative. And that it depends of the values of the median compared to the mean. Okay? Well, this is what I want to tell you in this video. Just let me to finish to show you how the spreadsheet that I create that is in D12 looks like. This is what you're gonna find in D12, okay? That is your, this is your spreadsheet. Okay, and let me see in here if I can make this a little bit bigger. No, well, no matter. So you have this cover page. This is the outline. This is what we discussed in here is frequency distribution table, the mean, the median, the mode, the mid-range, and the bar graph that is what is called the histogram. Okay, tomorrow probably I'm going to give you another video in which I'm going to discuss different type of presented data that might be group or external leaf, and then we're gonna discuss something that is about standard deviation. That is section 12.3. Standard deviation is once that we have the mean, how far in general the whole population is from that mean value, because we have some outliers sometimes For instance, those ones that spend 24 hours, well, they are from the mean, because the mean was 17 and the value was 24. How far they are? Well, we are going to give you, I'm going to discuss different strategies to compute that distance. And that distance, the ones that we're going to use, is what is called the standard deviation. Okay, so, well, this is what I show you. In here, this is the table, this is the frequency. So, and you have here the ways to compute the mean, the median, and the mode. Okay, so in here, in this one, I show you how to compute the standard deviation. So these columns here and this column here is to compute the standard deviation. And this is what I have here. So if you click over there, you're going to see the formula, how I compute each one of these. Okay, so, and then the mean in here, which is this number, is going to tell you how I compute. For instance, this value is J14, which is this value over here, divided by, I14, sorry, I14 divided by, yes, J14 divided by I14. So this divided by this. But if you take all this one and you add all those one and divide it by 30, you're going to get exactly the same. Okay, so that is the way to compute the mean. So you have that one, you have here the graph, and then I discuss the stem leaf and the group frequency. But this is what you're going to find in your spreadsheet in in D12.